Hey everyone, welcome to another time-lapse video. For today's video, I'm going to color this sketch that I drew many months ago. I drew this sketch at this building called Bukit Batok Skyline 1. I drew it at the 39th floor, so it's a very tall building. This video is actually part of the series that I tried to create, which is called Drawn to the Top. I wanted to visit different buildings in Singapore, different tall buildings in Singapore, and draw the scene from those buildings. So far, I have only completed 3 sketches, and this sketch that you are looking at right now was drawn in September 2017. So I would say that this project is not going on very well, but I'm still going to continue this project because in this particular sketchbook, there are still many more pages for me to fill. Alright, for my Patreon supporters, if you are watching this, you have access to the full-length tutorial. And for those who are watching this on my YouTube channel, you get to watch the time-lapse version. But if you want to support me on Patreon, you can get to watch the full-length tutorial with the step-by-steps. So today I'm just going to talk about my general process of painting this particular sketch. I'm using Daniel Smith watercolors, so I start by painting the colors. Actually, I don't have any particular format or process. I just paint whatever I feel like. So I try to paint the light colors first because that's the most recommended watercolor painting process. Start with the light and then work the middle tones and then work the dark tones. So that is something that I try to follow. But occasionally I would stray to painting darker colors. Alright, so what you're looking at right now, I have painted some of the colors. For the background in the top right corner, that was mixed with 3 colors: lemon yellow, quinacridone magenta, and phthalo blue. I wanted to mix a gray tone, a very light neutral gray tone, and paint the buildings in the far back. Because they are so far back, the colors they are a bit dull because of the atmospheric perspective, and the colors are muted down and they look like one bunch of colors, so I can actually just apply that wash, a large wash over that huge area over there. And earlier on you saw that I use this magenta color to color some of the buildings. I try to keep that color pure. I try not to mix too much. I just added a little bit of phthalo blue and maybe some yellow just to neutralize it down slightly. If I use the color straight from the pen, it's going to look too bright, too glaring, and it's going to look very unnatural. And right now I'm painting the building, the shadows of the building. Well, the thing is, when I was sketching this scene, it was a really cloudy day and there were no shadows on the building, but I decided to sort of add shadows because I felt that that could bring out the form of the building. But in this case, as I look at my sketch right now, I'm actually recalling this on hindsight. It appears that the shadow is a bit too dark. Anyway, as much as possible, I try to paint on location. I try to finish the sketch on location and then I try to paint on location because that is where you can get the most accurate impression. You get the most you get the feeling that you are painting on location. It's more, you're into the scene, you know. It's very difficult to describe, but when you are into the scene, you can sort of paint a bit freer, a bit easily, and see what you see more accurately versus painting at home, which is what I'm doing right now. So for a cloudy day like this, the building right in the center, it shouldn't have any shadows, and when I try to add this fake shadow, of course I do not know how the shadow tone is going to look like in terms of value, whether how light it is or how dark it is. So when I add fake shadow like this, if the value is not right, it's going to look a bit weird. So I'm not sure if it looks a bit weird right now. Anyway, so for all those dark areas for the trees on the left side, they are not dark enough when compared to the shadow on the side of the building. So to get more contrast, there are two things you can do. One is to keep the lighted areas light, but if you have already painted over the lighted area, then the other option is to make the darker area darker. So that is what I'm doing right now, which is to make the darker area darker because I have already painted the shadow area on the building. As you can see, this sketch has a lot of details. I think I spent probably an hour or so, 1 hour or 1 hour and a half to draw this. Sketches with a lot of details take a lot of time, and sketches with challenging perspective takes a lot of time because you have to be a bit more careful. So for me, I try to draw a bit slower to really spend more time observing what I see so that I can capture them more accurately. So after adding the light tones, the middle tones, and now I'm adding the dark tones, and I'm also adding the details, the little details like the dark windows, and touching up little areas that I see, little areas that are supposed to have colors. And you may notice that the trees, they are very dark. Now that's because of the photo that I've taken. If you are actually drawing on location, your eyes can see more colors. Those trees, they may have more green in them, but because I'm drawing from a reference photo, I do not know the actual colors of those trees. They just look black to me. Okay, I'm about done. So I've just added the sky. So for the sky, I use cerulean blue with some burnt sienna. I added the sky because I wanted to maybe pop out the building. So the building is white. When I add the sky, which is blue or grayish behind the building, it makes the building appear to be in front of the clouds. So you get that three-dimensional feel, and that three-dimensional feel is something that you want to capture, and that's the reason why I want to add the shadows as well, because with the shadows you get the three-dimensional view. You know where the shadow is created when the form of the building, when the side of the building turns. So here's a closer look at all the details in my sketch. You can see the lines, the vertical lines, they are not vertical at all. I may have said this in other videos, and I'm going to say it again right now. It doesn't really matter whether or not a line is perfectly straight. As long as your line is straight enough for people to think that it's straight, it's considered straight. So if your line is wavy like mine, they can still appear to be straight because when people look at certain subject, they sort of want to think that a line is straight. So even if your line is not that straight, it doesn't really matter. The most challenging part of this sketch in terms of drawing is actually drawing all the little details right at the back. And for all those little details, I actually used the back of the fountain pen so that I can get thinner lines. For buildings that are in front, I used the fountain pen with the normal tip to get the thicker line so I can see more details in front. I use thicker lines. I see less details behind. I use thinner lines. And that's all for my video today. Thanks for watching, and remember, you can support me and my channel by supporting my Patreon page, or you can get some of my online drawing courses at Gumroad. The link to my Patreon and Gumroad is in the video description below. Alright, see you guys again. Bye.